Hello, Enrique.
Hello, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing
How's it
very
going? All
well.
good?
I realize that sometimes just it's the delay between the digits and then our voices coming later. I don't know. Something is just we need to work with the restream guys to figure out why it's like that. Hello, Enrique. Great to see you
What's like,
again.
yeah. Thank you. It's like excited as well. We have today a very special guest. Okay, someone very thoughtful. Is gonna be shedding a lot of light on us on the digitalization coming from the UK. So let's welcome him on board, right?
Yeah, let's go.
Hello,
guys.
Casey. Welcome to the BIM Cafe.
Hi,
Thank you very
Casey.
much.
Great to see you. So just Enrique told me that you will enlighten us about the beam and the transformation and everything. So just I'm just really wondering, we will be much better people after the 1 hour today. So I can believe this.
Well, I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there watching who might gain something a little bit advantageous to help them along on their journey.
Fantastic, thank you. That's exactly what we try to do. So just for sure, Enrique just told you, and also just guys who are just watching. We have this is the third season right now of the different interviews which we're going for. The first one, the first season was about the what is beam, right? So that's Enrique was just trying to make sure that I understand what the beam is. So he did it pretty well. On the second season, we look for the money. So where we just try to find where we can define the money in the beam. That was unfortunately not really good end of the season because we haven't found a lot of money. And the third one right now, we're just really going through, all of the transformation and digital transformation, how we can go faster and how we can just really break the silo between the different organizations. So, let's try to rolling, Enrique.
Yeah, let's go on. Casey, we are going to talk not only about BIM, digital transformation in general, and this is where I think that your role can really help us on it.
Mm-hmm.
We just remove the background music and we make ourselves serious. There you go. First of all, we're gonna ask you to introduce yourself after the quick presentation of our agenda we're gonna run today. Well, I like to enhance BIM and digital transformation in the construction industry as an enabler for the collaboration. This is where I put the emphasis there. That all the digital tools needs to help us to collaborate, and what Peter said, put together all those silos which currently in the construction industry are working apart that much. And let's see how BIM is one of the pieces of the big puzzle of digitalization. But first, give you the mic. Introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much for the invite, for the opportunity to come and join you in this conversation. So my name's Casey Rutland. Day job is digital green. Sorry, this side. That's what I do to earn some money. Fortunate enough that enables me to volunteer my time for other organisations. So everything else you can see on screen here are all organisations that I contribute my time in one form or another, some more than others. One being the most is NEMA. We rebranded in October last year. We used to be called the UK BIM Alliance. So I'm vice chair of that. And the sister organisation to that in the UK is Building Smart UK and Ireland. So that's to do with the open BIM, the interoperability side of the BIM work process and the digitalisation of our industry. I'm engaged with British Standards Institution on the standard side of digital standards that relate to what it is we're doing. And I'm sitting on the advisory board member of Zero Construct, who are looking to decarbonise the construction process, help people understand what carbon looks like, having a consideration of what carbon can be saved, so becoming more carbon literate. And I think there's elements of that group of what they're doing that can help the digitalisation piece as well. So we need to be a bit more digital literate as well as carbon literate to understand and make a greater impact. I also am engaged with the UK Government Construction Leadership Council in the digital side of things, so the next generation delivery of how we deliver projects and what we do, and the Government and Industry Interoperability Group, also looking at how we exchange information across all different stakeholders in our industry. And then last but not least, but probably the oldest one I've been doing for the longest amount of time, BIM Open Mic events, a series of in-person events around the world, just talking about the realities of implementation of BIM. So no speaker slots that are predetermined. So everyone just hangs around, has a bit of networking, a few drinks and a bit of socializing, and then we just have an open mic session. So anyone who wants to get up and say anything, talk about something, ask a question, It's your opportunity to hear the truth about what happens with BIM implementation and what the opportunities are. Outside of the polished marketing presentations you tend to get at conferences. So it's the real interesting side of things.
That's very nice. So Casey, how you do when the people are not drinking? Are they the same way to open their minds if they're not drinking alcohol, or just?
Yeah, we have to be honest here that it's the socializing and the drinking part does ease people up a little bit. It lubricates them somewhat. But yeah, we don't record the events. We don't publish things. We don't do a summary. We don't do anything like that. So people are quite relaxed. It's kind of a safe space for a bit of therapy. It's also getting some honest truths out there, and they're genuinely valuable events. It's why I continue to still do them.
I love it. No, it's a great idea. I like that. It's very impressive, the portfolio of the task which you're doing. So thanks for being with us. So one of the things which I really appreciate when you just saw about this open safe space and about all of the transformation and the digitization. So tell us a little bit more. What are you doing in Digital Green? What are the main topics which you're having in Digital Green?
Well, I'm an architect, so I started out having sort of stepped sideways from pure architecture to working in large organizations at the digital implementation side. So it was really about understanding how we can better use technology tools and different processes, standardizations, and different data sets to automate better what we do, so that the digital was really augmenting the human. So you end up with it's not coming to take your jobs, it's helping you do your job better. Mm-hmm. So a lot of those things that I was working with large engineering consultancies, and then I realized that actually that was where the interest was for me. So I sidestepped that, and then I became involved in roles doing that full time. And then I set up on my own. So the Digital Green side of things brings together not only my architectural background, but I also trained as a sustainability BREEAM assessor early in my career. So the sustainability, the digital, and the architecture, the built environment all came together in my organization. So I help real estate property owners, asset owners, understand how they can use digital to better manage their assets with various different benefits, whether they're business benefits, sustainability benefits, people benefits. They all come through in one form or another. It's not the same with every client, but it's there or thereabouts. But ultimately, it's about better use of data and digital to run their assets.
This is beautiful. It's great. And quick question, Casey: Are your customer clients usually more for the public administration or private ones, like land developers, or both of them?
So, despite the conversation in the UK being government-led, public procurement and things like that, actually most of my clients I think I've only ever worked with the government once. All of my other clients are private clients. So this is where often in the UK there's a negativity around how badly we've done since the government mandate, and it's not true. It's just not true. It's what. If they're measuring purely government projects, that's one thing. But if you take a look at the private sector and take a look at what the private sector did, having seen the government mandate, they said, well, there must be some common sense in this approach. We should be doing this as well. So there's whole tranches of the private sector who are also doing these things and getting benefit from it. And they have the ability to move a little bit faster, perhaps, than government bodies. So, yeah, it's private work for me.
Yeah, I understand it. So, Casey, one thing, when you were introducing yourself, you said about the two different bodies, about the standardization, about the interoperability, which is great to hear. And I love to challenge you just straight from the beginning. Do you think really interoperability makes any more sense when you have all of the machine learning and all of the AI working on it? Why we can just not go step ahead and just really try to make sure that we connect it? Interoperability was just when we were just, in the 80s. Right now, I don't think so. It's important.
Depends how accurate you want your AI machine learning to be. It's the same. And I will comment this. You can bleep it out afterwards, but crap in, crap out. And if the data that we've inherently generated as an industry typically is not of very good quality. So when we're talking about data quality, and then we're asking machines to learn from it, that's where the big worry starts to step in. And I think there are huge holes you could drive in this argument, but I compare particularly IFC as a data language to describe the built environment. If we say that's the equivalent to HTML for websites, then that's what makes the internet work. And if we've got the ability to describe our built environment digitally using the IFC schema, that's what's going to make our built environment work digitally. That's what enables people to make software services or develop an app that knows and understands the structure of the data, knows where to find the data reliably, accurately for every single time. Then you start to get the power of scalability, repeatability, automation, and all of those things that if one engineer or architect has created a script that works with their data in their models from a bespoke point of view, it's not repeatable and scalable across the globe. So, that's the direction I'm coming from.
I hear you, but what you described to me is just more, it goes more from me from the literature. So just as like the Beckett waiting for Godot, right? It will never happen, right? It's not possible having everything synchronized in the perfect quality. These things will never exist. And I again, that's my point of view, of course. But when I look at when you describe it, if this will be HTML is the part of internet, I hear you. But that's still a couple of years back, right? Right now, the internet is not HTML anymore. There's so many different technologies which was introduced. And I still see that the construction part is lagging behind. And when I just look at the different, and of course, I completely agree when something is going bad, you will have the bad output, right? And just you have the bad input, you have the bad output. But one of the things which I really found pretty amazing is that we are forgetting about the ability to learn the good stuff. And if you will put the right quality in front of the machines, we will literally supposed to have the good quality out. But I'm just talking about talking with the different type of silo. That's really my, being on the MIPIM the last week, I spent the whole days working and talking to the people. And each time I talk to somebody, I see that, okay, this is my silo, don't touch anything else. This is my silo, and I will tell you how the best I can do it. I go to another one, I go to the architects, they say, this is mine, don't touch anything outside, this is mine. And so I try just to connect all of these blocks. And I was just thinking, maybe if we will get the great quality from all of these blocks and try to start learning together faster than people do, it's just like with the machines, maybe we can come up with something out of it, right? I don't know if it makes any sense for you or just as complete.
Well, it does, but until, from my perspective, until technology gets to that point and it can understand what's right and what's wrong, then we've got a gap to fill in the meantime. Because with an open data standard that's published, you can check quality against it. And if people are producing things and exporting them in a certain way, that can be checked, reviewed, approved against what it was supposed to deliver, against many other things as well, and connected with other databases. So if we've got, like you said, it's the silo in design terms or IP terms, or this is mine, you're not touching it. That's one version of a silo. But the other version is that we've got organizations across the world creating their own digital way of describing something.
Exactly. No, I agree. And I want to break this digital part. I don't want to break the architects. You guys need to live your own life. It's just that's normal. But I completely agree. This digital part really it's really just make me nervous because I really think that's a different type of monopoly, right? And again, I have nothing against Google's. I have nothing against Amazon's. But this part of the construction industry, we need to be smarter. We need to learn from these guys that we can build something for the humanity. In fact, I know it's big terms, but I really see the opportunity for us with such $1 trillion in the real estate and in all of this part and the architecture. We really can change the world, right? And we are responsible of the huge emission of CO2 and just all of this planet problems, etc. We need to do something, right? And if we can just be smarter than just the Google and Amazons, maybe, I know, maybe that's not possible. I don't know.
I think that's a big ask. And it's for us to ask all of us to be smarter than Google and Amazon and things like that. It's a big ask as an industry generally, based on the makeup of the types of jobs, roles, descriptions, and all those things that we've got going on. It's a big mess out there, if we're honest, our industry. But things are changing, and things are changing positively. And as I said earlier, we're often criticised for not being as far advanced as the government would like us to be. But actually, if you take a moment to appreciate where we've come from and how much we've achieved over the last 5 years or so, there's a huge amount done. The conversations we're having now are far more complex than in terms of, or mature, let's say, not complex, far more mature now than they were 5 years ago. And the types of topics we see on stage in conferences are now, it's gone beyond let's do BIM, BIM is good, to okay, what do we need data for? What daily problems are we solving using the data that's produced through this BIM process? And that's really where we need to be. It's not BIM for BIM's sake. It's BIM as an enabler to solve daily challenges that this industry or planet has.
Very good. No, I think. Sorry, Enrique, I just monopolized the conversation, but I really like the topic about it. And the last week, the meeting really just break my neck, I think, in terms of the way of discussing of the BIM. I can just give you this. Again, this is the crystal ball statistic with talking for the 4 days with the thousands of people, but I think 50% of the people who I talk about BIM, they don't even they know what is it, because they need to know, because that they supposed to know, and so, oh, BIM, yeah, I know it. But then when you start to talk, going a little bit deeper, is just saying, okay, so you know what a BIM is, so how you would like to, how you connecting with the other companies? They say, no, this is visualization, right? We're just showing the images, and you can put the dots together, and you can just draw them. And I said, no, okay, I got that one, but this is not what I think I'm asking about the processes. And I think this is what you're also just showing on your slide here. This is one part of your takeaway as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's part of the from a NEMA point of view, we're promoting the use of BIM throughout the UK and Ireland. We're always fighting against the marketing machines of the software manufacturers. So they've done a brilliant job at convincing everyone that if you're doing BIM, you must have a 3D version of a building. So gradually they're coming around to the idea that infrastructure has a role to play, and BIM is an enabler for them as well. But really, if we're looking, and one of the reasons we, as the UK BIM Alliance, rebranded to NEMA, was to not drop the B, but start the conversation from an information management perspective rather than a BIM perspective. And once you start talking about information management, you get what we've got on screen now is the ISO 19650 process, the wrapper, the information management wrapper around this BIM process, is about ultimately defining, creating, and delivering structured data and documents. There'll be some unstructured stuff in there as well, but it's mostly that structured digital data that we can use for the life cycle of managing whatever asset. And that's the reason we engage a lot more people by starting in that way. Ultimately, some people will end up wanting to talk about Revit or ArchiCAD or something that, the tools that they need to use to do that thing. But those are not the tools that everybody needs to use. If you're a product manufacturer, actually what we want is the product data. We don't necessarily need a 3D version of all of your products. That's just an expense. Whereas as a product manufacturer, you have all the information that we need as specifiers, as designers, as operators, all of those things. It's just about getting the message through that there's a part to play as a stakeholder, as a product manufacturer, as a client, as a maintenance guy, as someone who installs things, screws things to walls. There's a role to play in all of those different things. It's not just about having a 3D model of whatever it is that's being designed.
Oh my God, that's music to my ears when you're talking about it. But I can tell you, Casey, one of the things is, I think, Enrique, you can confirm it. I think after the 2 years when we're running our discussions, I think you're the one of the first person who is talking that we do not need for the manufacturers. For example, we don't need the 3Ds, etc., which I completely agree. I think that's something which is more important, which is bringing the value is the data and how you can just use it through the whole process. But again, going back to my 2 weeks ago, I spent the time with the architects discussing, why, how we can just use the manufacturer's data into their process. And they were just literally not interested. And I said, guys, And just like, I hear what you're saying, that you don't need to know the size of the water tank sitting in summer ceiling, etc. No, I got that one, because that's a specialist who will just design it and put the pipes. But imagine that you will just not need to redesign your whole building when you will just put it properly on the first shot, right? And when you put the proper channels and you put proper the channels through the building, etc., and the piping. I'm not asking you for the centimeters. I'm not asking for, but just at least use the data from manufacturers, whatever it will be, most generic, whatever, and just put on your design. It will help you to speed up your process. You will get more money because you will have the better margin because you don't need to rework everything. But that was not ringing the bell. That was something like, okay, no, this is specialist. We are not doing it. We are only for the big stuff, right? The nice stuff.
Yeah, and I can say this because I'm an architect, but it might get you a few comments on this video as an unpopular opinion. Architects aren't very good at data generally, and that's a sweeping generalization. But in our education, we are not taught that data is a good thing or that it's available for us to use. Whereas engineers, that's what they do. They practice data day in, day out, calculations, data, and everything. Architecture is a slightly different thing. It's more creative. It's an art degree. So it's inherently built into us not to do that. Whereas a lot of other people, project managers, engineers across the board, they're at peace with data. Manufacturers are at peace with data. So it is a cultural difference in our education, but there are lots of architects doing some wonderful things with data right now. So it's an opportunity for us to automate a lot of the design processes we go through, to just take the drudge work out of the design process, and just automate a lot of things, like automatic car park layouts and things like that. There are tools out there who just do that. And I picked that one because I spent a large part of my career designing sports stadia and the relevant car parks that go with them around the world. So it's what used to take us a few days can now be done in a matter of minutes, and that is just through data and automation.
That's I think I just echo you. I think that's exactly what I see as we cannot really we're supposed not to influence you with the data when you're designing, because I think that's something which can limit you in the creativity, and I completely agree with this. But from the moment when we know what we would like to do, it's just to check it if it's possible. That's simple like that. Hey, is it the design which I think the creative idea how I would like to put the all of the forms and the way how the people will be walking, is it something doable, or do I need to redesign it? And then you can just use the data to it. And again, we can just take it away, the software, whatever. It's just like I remember when I was just starting because I graduated from the IT part on the beginning, so that was my first degree. We didn't have a time, and I was starting. I know it's really difficult to say, but we started with the cards. When you go to the PC, they go to the computer, you need to print the cards, and you need to give it to somebody to process. And I can tell you that I run all of the dates, all of the programs in my head before I can give it the card to somebody, because it takes me a day to get the results, right? So it's better to be right, because if I just made a mistake here, so I run these things as, so I have the conceptual part, you need to solve the problem. So I solved the problem. Then I went to the data and I put it in the order, but I run it through my head to make sure that, I was running as a computer. That's what I'm only saying for the people right now in the construction industry. Use your creativity, solve the problem, but then run it through the machines, make it sure that it's, as you mentioned, check it, verify it. If it's right quality, boom. And if it's not, okay, fine, let's me redo this, but I will just save the time at the end. Anyway, great discussion.
It's not that much fun when we all agree on what we're talking, right? And we were discussing this with one of our previous guests, Lubomir, also the importance of the data analysis, and he was repeating this sentence a few times, which I think is very important. It's about to learn from the previous processes. It's not like we usually in construction, everything we build is built pretty much from zero again. We don't really learn from that, and that this is due to the separation of the silos and the work ethics and blah, blah, blah. And we discuss about the BIM. Let's remove the B, okay? Information management. I like that. This is how we are evolving as an enabler. You mentioned that as well, to connect all these dots together and be able to learn from that. And I want to ask you, what do you think about this idea? Because it's another discussion we had with one of the previous guests, Manuel Navas, I hear from Spain. And he was talking to me about BIM in a way of a data harvest system or process or whatever you call it, right? He told me, BIM is we are managing at the end graphical databases. It's data which can provide also some visualization in parts of with the 3D and so on, but we're managing graphical databases, and it's used to, we need to plan the data during the process and harvest it properly to use it well. I like the analogy because it's also work with the enabler one of providing the data back and using it to learn from the project, not linking back to what we were saying before. What do you think about this analogy?
It's one of the opportunities that are there. I mean, if you're going to harvest data, you've got to make sure it's there in the first place. So you've got to have a client that understands what data they need at the end, and then you've got to procure that data. And I think you just flashed up the slide there, and that was really part of that conversation, is that if you've got a client that knows what data they want, they can put it in their specification, in their contracts, they then procure that, and then whichever team is selected, they deliver it. And the assurance part is what Piotr just said. It's about the checking, making sure that the data you're delivering is meeting the requirements, but also that the design meets the requirements. So we're not just checking the data quality, we're checking the quality of the design. Is it working? Does it function the way it's supposed to? And then that data's got to be stored somewhere. And the presentation piece is not just saying, here it is. It's how do we present that data to a particular stakeholder, whether it's about sustainability, whether it's about finance, whether it's about fire and life safety, or is it about design, or is it about feedback to a manufacturer about their product performance? There's different ways you can present the data, and it's not all as a 3D model. It might be a dashboard, it might be a spreadsheet, it might be a report, it might be a drawing. All of these different things, different ways to present that. But then when you've got that data structure, you can start to exploit it. And that's taking that data set, matching it with another data set that might seem misappropriated, but you'll start to spot themes and trends and all of those things. And then we start getting into big data analytics and stuff like that. But if you've got a client with a portfolio of property and they need to understand better all of their assets, it's the only real way to do it, because if you're not going to have data about those things, doing it in an analog way is very, very challenging. So this is really about that process. It's just about understanding all the different opportunities for stakeholders across the life cycle, across our entire industry. The opportunities there to get involved and engaged with a BIM process, which is what I see on screen right now. That's the BIM process, but creating the data that goes along with it. Whereas actually what we see, going back to the conversation a few conversations ago, most people, when they talk about BIM, they're talking about that delivery piece. So they're talking about creating a 3D model or a data set or something for that. And all the conversation is around low-hanging fruit, like design coordination, clash detection and stuff like that. Yes, it's valuable to a stakeholder at that particular time, but actually it sits within the bigger context of all of these other various different data exchanges or data uses throughout this entire process. And that's, so yes, in a way, harvesting the data is pretty much comes from either the delivery or assurance process. You're checking the data, but you're taking it out and exploiting it in a certain way for other uses, providing the data was generated for that particular use.
This is stepping back, and we see a way bigger scope now. We don't talk anymore about BIM or data. Sorry,
no. But this is BIM is it for me. Again, and in this case, I will just go back to my whole history, which I was just showing. I'm telling to everybody, in the 80s, the ERP shows up on the market. Before we will have the accounting system, which was doing debit credit for accounting. Some intelligent guy said, let me just introduce the ERP. So how much material I need to produce. So and that was the ERP part, 80s. Afterwards, we were just thinking about the customers. So we have the Excel file with the calling people. We have the CRMs. And of course, we have the SRMs, which is the service systems. Right now, the BIM for me is a fourth kind of like I'm not saying it's even revolution. It's evolution of our understanding of the data. And we really need to push it really hard to make it happen, because construction is a very old industry, and it's very it's resisting a lot in the way how we would like just to push it through. But there is for sure, I can see it as the next data transformation in the world. But I would like to see right now, when I see with this, the data information, open AIs, etc., if I will just use the existing designs from the building, so digital twin of the Charles de Gaulle Airport, for example, or if I use the digital twin of some, let's just take Eiffel Tower, and I will just use it as a learning material for my engines on the beam, and I can just then check it. This is what you mentioned, Casey. I can just use my design and say, hey, can you check it all of it consistently, which you can see based on my design and based on all of the history data of the building which already exists, which already in the exploitations, and the maintenance. Tell me where I just made any stupid mistakes, right? And at least the machine will tell you based on the data, saying, okay, hey, just think through this because your heating system is just not efficient. You can just 10% more if you think about the goal or the different solution, etc., etc. So I try to challenge your garbage in, garbage out a little bit from the beginning.
Depends how it's modeled in the first place, though, doesn't it? It's if the model of the Eiffel Tower is modelled at the point where none of the steels touch one another, and that can happen in practice. In a structural model, not all of them need to touch. It depends what level of detail it's been modelled at. So then you've got to run AI that seems to think that steels hover in space. So there's a question there.
I haven't thought about that one. Just that's okay. So I will just be scared to go through the Eiffel Tower anymore. I will not walk anymore. Okay.
It flows there through any example, really. It's just, I think we need to make sure that the data that we're using is true for the purpose.
Correct.
So, and this is where the exploit stage becomes a bit of a challenge, because if you're using data that wasn't designed for that particular purpose, then you're taking the risk yourself based on that. But if you're analyzing data that was, it's say, crowd evacuation data from a stadium, if the data has been provided for that particular purpose and the model has been three-dimensional virtual representation of that has been designed for that purpose, then you're working on the basis that each consultant who's done their work has understood that that's what the purpose is. Yeah. It's not designed for an environmental analysis.
Yeah,
that's a different use case. So you have to build that in at the start. If you're creating models and data for particular purposes, you've got to make sure that you're covered to use it for that particular purpose.
Completely agree. Everything. So based on your experience, because you touch a very important part here, which this is my understanding why we're going so slow, because the industry is very complex, and whenever you touch the subject, it's multidisciplinary. So just you cannot say, that's the door. No, that's not the door. That's also the evacuation pad. That's also the heat pad. That's also so each time when you start talking about something, it's just you have thousands of different topics. In your opinion, with your experience, what will be the best first, really, when we would like to attack the construction market, what will be the best way to convince people that the digital modeling and the information it's flowing is the good way to go? Where you will start yourself?
So I have a fairly controversial viewpoint on this. So
okay, sorry.
Every time we talk about BIM, the collaboration word comes up. It's designed to help people, to encourage collaboration and blah, blah, blah. Actually, the best first step is be selfish about your BIM implementation. Find the value for you that makes it better for what you do. So whether it's managing data or naming your documents properly, or just using a 3D modeling tool, it might be any of those things if it's relevant to you. If you find the value in doing that one thing, do it for yourself. Because then when you end up working with another team member, another consultant who's doing the same, they found their value, they can share. You can start to then collaborate. But if you're collaborating, if you're implementing a process or a piece of technology or whatever, a change, if you're doing that for somebody else's benefit, you're never going to get the benefits from it. So do it for yourself first, and then work with other people who have done the same thing, and working together at that point, then everyone will start to work together better. And that's It's slightly controversial, but that's genuinely the way to do it. Yeah, people don't in the UK. They don't work on a BIM project because it's benefiting the government. They do it because they're going to get paid to do it, or they're doing it because they can do more stuff better and more accurately, and all of those things. All of the benefits that we know as confident people who've been there and done it, and will want everyone else to do it. It's a challenge, but it's it's really to find your own value in it.
I like it. Enrique, we need to be self.
I won't, yeah. I won't say it's controversial, actually. I like it because of this is something we say also in many ways. Like, how come, taking Casey's word, how come are you going to share something if you don't see the value there for you? So you need to know, like, how to touch this sensible part in your brain, or okay, this is going to help my daily work, or this is going to benefit my company or my task, or I'm going to save time. I can leave early. Like, you put it in simple points, right? Of course, you need to be selfish at the beginning, don't let to share, because I cannot share in a methodology where I don't see the benefit from myself. So what am I going to share?
So something you've just mentioned there, as part of your list, is probably one of the most important things for me in the work that I do in engaging with people at the company, because it's always a people first approach, is if I can put something in place, whether it's a new process, a new piece of technology, or something that enables people to go home on time and spend time with their families, that's what really gets traction, because it's what we all do. No one wants to be in work until 9 o'clock, go home, have their dinner from the microwave, and then go to bed, get up, and repeat 5-6 days a week. No one wants to do that.
Yeah, this is what
I have a life-work balance, and if I can do that for a group of people working at a company, that's what I'm here for.
My God, you just described my day. I feel bad about it. Okay, I thought it's normal.
Maybe I can work with you.
No, you're right. And that's I think this is phenomenal what you described. In fact, together with Enrique and the team and the other folks in our companies, what we try to do, really try to build some more flexible way of working on the different topics, and it does of course include BIM, that's include the different implementation, because I think the value which we bring is just depends on the flexibility and the way how we can create the more value to ourselves. But very good point. I rather supposed to disagree with you, but we agree on all of the topics, Casey. I don't think so it's a good thing, usually
I'm sure I'm going to say something that's going to upset someone at some point.
No worries. So I'm gonna pull some controversy here, okay? When I first contact Casey and we have our first chat, he told me very fair and straightforward, like, hey, look, I'm a open format guy. Like, I'm here to defend IFC and this kind of open formats, and I'm not saying I'm against that, but I want to challenge it in the way of the power of the software development companies that is making this implementation lagging more on the industry. And I pull out here on the screen this IFC special report I saw when I was preparing some part of the interview. Like it get very good welcoming for the plain language, and it got wider cross section. So it's important how to communicate it. If we start to talk about the structure of the IFC 4.3, whatever, I'm already disconnected and I know about this. I'm already a bit, at least I'm in a work meeting or working on specifically on that. So making it less complex, or showing it actually, okay, I can put it, like, explain it to your grandma in a way. It's important. This is why this report got success. No? So here are a couple of questions. Talk to me about this report, and then why the software development companies doesn't help with this. No?
That's a good question. It's one. And thank you for promoting the IFC special report. Anyone can just it's in the AEC magazine. You can go and Google it, and you'll find that it's free. But yeah, this was written in a way to engage as many people as we could, point towards an AEC magazine, but it's out there for people to read. Because often what we see with IFC and OpenBIM and data things, it's always very technical very quickly. And it loses a lot of people. It loses a large number of people that could be benefiting from it. Whereas if you're an owner, a real estate owner, you don't want to know about the guts and the code within IFC. You don't need to know that. But what we're starting to see now is that there are services, software, and things like that, apps that are built on the basis of understanding how to get most out of IFC, so that a client and his operational team can specify the data they need to operate a building or a railway or a road or whatever, just by using an app on their phone or an app on a web app or something. And it's a lot easier for them to engage with, this is a language that I use. So as an asset manager, I know that I need this piece of information about these things and how to get to these safety certificates or this issue tracking tool or whatever. And you use their language, but the background is using IFC to explain all that jargon in the background. And that's, I think, what's happening now. Plus, also, we're starting to see, as you said, software developers. We're starting to see a lot more software developers creating low or free or low cost tools. And they're design tools, they are data tools, they are specification tools, they are checking tools, and they're low cost or free. So they're starting to really form a huge competition for the traditional larger software developers. Because it plays nicely with wider data sets and wider organizations. And, the network of tools that are available now are not just design tools. They're multiple use tools, and they're all creating the same set of data ultimately, or feeding from or generating the same data structure. So the power of it is huge.
That's great. So this is exactly what that's one of the paradigm which is coming to the economy, is just the economy of sharing, and not economy of the growth, but economy how we can share our own resources for the benefits of everybody. But it will be another 200 years. Okay, I don't believe it will go so fast. But that's a good concept. I really like the idea of share. And if and again, we're going back to the beginning of the civilization, I think, when that's the reason why we survived so many years, because we were sharing, we were just defending each other. Of course, we were fighting between the different guys, but it's overall, we were just in the share mode for the last couple of centuries. For the last, I think, two centuries, we try just to fight against nature, and I think we're losing this one. So, I love the idea, Casey.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. We know it's a long journey. Building Smart's been in existence for over 20 years, so it's a long journey. It's not going to happen overnight, but what we're seeing now is the conversation about digital is far greater now. It's far more mature, as we said earlier, than it ever has been. So the more people who discover things like Building Smart or IFC or the use case management tool or the information delivery specification, all of these things are there as tools just for people to pick up and go, I can now specify the data I want in a way that industry tools already support. And that's a big thing. That's a huge thing.
One thing which, and again, I think we can just talk about it with Enrique a little bit. We strongly believe that I think and again, that's not the controversial, that's what we see for the last 2 years. One of the best place to start really all of the conversation, and you have mentioned it, really it's from the manufacturers, right? Because that's the source of the building blocks for the rest of the industry. But we are seeing a lot of resistance from the manufacturers, which can be really the driving force, because they're saying, and it doesn't matter, I will sell everything what it comes to me. I have the orders for another 3, 4, 5 years. I produce it, so I don't really need to invest anymore in this kind of things. My products are just sold from the production line, and BIM and data, not really interested today.
Well, they are interested, and I'll tell you why. Because if you've got a manufacturer who needs to provide an environmental product declaration, they have that data, and they will do that, prepare and deliver that data. So they are interested, and they are doing it. And it's just a slight extension of that. And we in the UK have just had, off the back of a residential tower block burning and people dying, we've had a review and an update to a Building Safety Act, and having to have data about things or information about objects that relate to fire and life safety is huge. And that all comes from product manufacturers, and to prove that products were designed to work either together or independently on their own to do certain things, whether it's building fabric or alarm systems, we need that information, that data. So they are engaging with it. They don't need to be told it in a BIM way. What they need to be told is that there is a way of structuring that data that enables it to be freely used and communicated, not just buried in a PDF somewhere.
Okay, that's a kind of an idea. So just we don't need to tell them that they're doing BIM, but at the end they will be doing BIM. Okay.
BIM with let's call it BIM without M, right? Like this information management. It sounds more attractive and more accessible to everyone, right?
Information management.
Yeah, I keep coming back to why we rebranded the UK BIM Alliance, is because BIM is very divisive. Either you start talking about BIM and someone says, that's brilliant, we've got to do it, or they say, that's got nothing to do with me, that's those guys.
Yeah.
And if we
Team
start to
A,
talk
Team
about
B, no?
information management, if we start to talk about information management with a product manufacturer, they've got that covered. They know where their data is. They've got the information about their products. They have to. But what we're saying is that if we make that available to industry in a certain way, it's going to be flying a lot smoother through the data process. And we're not talking about having 3D models of everything, as we said before, because that's just an expense that they see. It always comes from the marketing budget rather than the product development budget, and they have the data in the first place. As an architect, I'm not going to go to a third party as a library, if you like. I'm not going to go there for my product data. If I'm specifying something, I go to the manufacturer.
Exactly, to the website or the source of the information, right? I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
How come are you going to write your design?
We disagree with our guests. We agree with our guests. That's the purpose. Please,
There on debate, right? Okay. Well, no, I completely agree with you, Casey. That the fact that, and like the things you mentioned of many of our clients or people we approach, manufacturers that say, "Yeah, my product is digitalized. I have all the data on my PDF."
Yeah, I mean, it's this is what we say. I mean, if you're going to feed an AI or machine learning tool with PDFs, great, but it's just one. We've got to figure out where that data is among the text.
Yeah.
If you provide that data in a standardized way about a product, so it's always in the same way, in the same place, it's a lot easier to feed that whatever automation tool with that data.
Now, I got the €1 million, £1 million questions for you. The biggest challenge of the implementation, IFC or whatever it's called, the structure, homogenized structure to run this data. Why everyone, instead of work on it, fight their own and create their own one? This is the main challenge we're facing, right?
Yes. I think that's, as we alluded to earlier, it's people creating their own data structure. Yeah. And kind of, and I've used this phrase before, sleepwalking into interoperability problems. So what they're doing on one project might be brilliant, it might work on one project, but even in their own company, that same process probably won't be repeatable or scalable or automatable on the next project they do. And that's what we're trying to say to people, is that every time they do that, they create their own data structure for, I don't know, something as simple as a schedule of some sort. They'll have a different way of creating a schedule on one project compared to another project compared to another project. And it just creates interoperability problems. Whereas if there's a standardized way to describe information about a door, if there's a standardized way of doing that, let's just all do that. Product manufacturers, specifiers, fire and life safety, environmental, heat loss calcs, if all of these things can access the information about that door for all of those different purposes. Whereas if it's buried in a PDF or text in a PDF, you've got to read it and extract it somehow, then have some level of confidence that it's right before you use it. That's when problems start to arise.
I agree, and I like this idea, totally agree. But let me tell you something also. When I have some products and I look from some product category, classification, whatever, they are not easy to use. They're not easy to understand, most of them. For my perspective, I don't consider myself very knowledgeable about the topic, but I have a technical background, so I should be able to do that. I need to spell like these 3 structures, so you have like 4 or 5 different levels. As Jesus, I don't know if I even do this. So before I start to understand the structure of this classification system, I'm already saying, you know what, I'm going to open my Excel and do my own. And this is how the industry is evolving. This is the bad behavior what we have. But I think we need to make this classification, the standard classification, this one ring to rule everyone, way more simple, sexy, easy. No.
Well, yes, but what we've got is a maturing process. Whereas if you take the example of we discussed Amazon earlier, if you're on Amazon looking to buy a TV, you search, I want to buy a TV, and you select a few properties. I want it this large, I want it these features, and I want it this color, and it will filter out all of those things for you. You don't need to know what the programming in the background of that database is. And that's where we need to get to with our industry, is that lots of the products that we use already have that ability. I can probably buy those products online somewhere doing a filter and a search. So it's already working in the background. It's just that the tools we use on a daily basis aren't built on that background, that same data as well. So the more tools, as I said, there are developers creating those things that mean you don't need to know the classification. You need to know the words, the natural words that you would use in whatever language that you want in your natural speaking language. You can use those words, but still find the same product as someone using a different language, and you'd find those same products. And that's a really interesting perspective to take on it. But we're an evolving industry, as Peter said. We're slowly evolving, but it needs to get to that point where we're, as engineers and architects and project managers, you don't need to know a data structure because the software takes care of that, and that's the intent of it. You just want a tool that enables you, in perfect user acceptance, just to pick a tool up as intuitively as possible, just do the job that you need to do.
We need to jump there certain way because it's taking too long to get to the goal. Right? I agree that this is the goal, so we need to really speed up a bit because
it's taking too long because people are creating data that doesn't connect.
Yeah, no, but I guess I think one of the key elements right now, and I think we are in a great moment of the economy right now. The recession is not inflation is everywhere. The market is just struggling just to continue to grow, etc. And one of the key elements, which I think will be a driver, is a lack of productivity, because that's something which was always the key driver for the creating the value for the society, was really the productivity, right? So when you look at different economies, right now we don't have it, and I think in the construction it will touch majority of the different industries and across all of the different places. So I think we have from the microeconomic view, I think we have the right moment right now to push it through. It can fly, but we will see if the politics will allow us. But that's the moment in the world which we can move and we're using the word BIM, but when we use the digitization in the construction industry, I think it can fly today for the benefit of all of the people around the world. Okay, and just forget about the environment, but for getting richer, being very richer.
Well, exactly. There's a phrase: "Never waste a good crisis." And if you, like I said, bring it back to the selfish part. Why am I doing this? Why am I using digital tools? Why am I doing BIM? Why am I changing my processes? It's to be selfish, and it's to make you better at what you do, so that you can exist as a company, as an organization, as a consultant, whatever. It's just there, ready to be taken.
Wow. So let's try just to go over the conclusion of our discussions, guys, because I think Enrique, we're going very closely to the end of the discussion. What are you showing right now?
So this is just a slide. It largely relates to the last phase, the exploit phase. So once we've got our data that is structured in a way that software supports, that people know that it's freely available, it's globally standardized, you can deal with decarbonization. You can start to understand your business and commercial aspects. You can reduce risk and give you greater insight at the design stage, at the product stage, at the operational stages. ESG reporting is all over the prop tech world at the moment, and the real estate world. Regulatory compliance. There's some great work going on around Europe with automated rule checking for code compliance. Huge amounts of work, and that only works if you've got the data that feeds it into it in the first place at the moment. But then these are scalable, repeatable, extendable solutions to these things. And then the last thing there is perhaps I think was mentioned earlier, digital twins. The BIM process, if it's run through the ISO 19650 process, will create a static data set or record of that physical asset, that facility, or whatever it is, with a whole load of assets in it that need to be maintained. But the data you've got there is a great foundation, a start for a digital twin, for applying the dynamic data to that thing. So sensor data, building management system data, business data, people data, operational data, all of that stuff that enlivens that static data set, that you then start to get a good understanding of the digital twin piece. So if you've got a desire or an instruction to go investigate the digital twin piece, then having a good record of what you've got in the first place is probably a good place to start.
Makes sense.
Data. This is how we are evolving, and we were talking before on our first episode when we were talking or teaching about BIM. Let's call it teaching about BIM. the I of BIM is the biggest, the most important one, which the one which should be capital, and this is the emphasis we're putting right here. This is to see how the evolution goes. No, but we need to make it simple and accessible for these people to get there. Casey, I don't know how, but I'm gonna push with all my strength to my professional life.
I hope it didn't go too far in the data realm, but we did probably say the word data more than we said BIM. But I think that's good, because anybody, any stakeholder there in this entire process, from product manufacturer, client, operator, manager, people who need to fix things on site, they need information straight away. And if they can get their mobile phone out and get to the data they need about the thing they're just about to go and replace or maintain, that's where we need to be. It's almost there already, but it's all done in piecemeal kind of. Most people are working from PDFs and things like that. So we just need to get a bit more data driven about how we're doing stuff. And the ISO 19650 BIM process does that.
My God, I'm just, for a second, I was thinking that I am in the dream world. The dream world somehow is just a dream. So anyway, good. I think the transition is coming. Hope we will just be able to push it a little bit faster, because I think we are, when I compare it to the different my digital experiences and the different startups, what I did, this is really the slowest growing, slowest moving part. But I'm not giving up. Potentially the big construction industry will be moving. So when it starts moving, everybody will feel it and see it. So
well, I agree with that, and I can't remember who the quote was from, but it's about digitalization. If people think digital is moving fast right now, it will never be as slow as it is today. So that's just the digital world. It's always going to be getting faster and faster.
Very good. Enrique, you can hear us okay? You can be with us?
Yeah,
not
all good. The song was a bit lagging, so I missed the last conversation topic flow. But well, I think I catch the last Casey sentence, and I think it's a good ending for them. No, we don't want to take more of your time. No, we have three minutes to start to pay you. We said this is for free, Casey. We spend more than 60 minutes. We start to pay you a pound the second. So we need to start to wrap it up.
I'll send you invoice anyway, just in case.
Really pleasure to meet you, Casey. So just usually I did agree with my guests, so just with our guests. So sorry for that. We agree to most of the time. So I need to work on the little bit better on the preparation, but that was, with my values. So I really appreciate. Thank you very much for your wisdom.
Speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.